What's good, family? It's your man, the YB, back once again. So, as you've all seen by now, Deontay Wilder rolled up and smoked on that Robert Helenius pack bigly. Now, I can't lie to you. Obviously, I had Wilder winning this fight. I did think, though, bearing in mind, Helenius, up until last night really, hasn't been stupid. Meaning that when he's gone in there under the big lights, for example, the Dillian White fight, he kind of choked and he went in there to survive. Now, I was in two minds, in all honesty, because, of course, Helenius had two pretty good wins over Kalinowski. Now, Kalinowski, at the time, 2-3 years ago, was meant to be the next big thing. Trust me, the hype behind Kalinowski was up there with kind of like the Luis Ortiz hype. Luis Ortiz, the boogeyman. Kalinowski was supposed to be the boogeyman as well. People were saying, AJ ducking Kalinowski. There's no way AJ will want anything to do with Kalinowski. Yeah. So the fact Helenius went in there and not only beat Kalinowski, but dragged the guy. The guy got dragged 100%. Helenius dragged Kalinowski. Now, he did it in devastating fashion twice. Just butchered the guy. So, like I said, there's two ways of thinking here. Number one, is Helenius going to go in there to try and survive, i.e. tight defense and just backpedal the whole night, making it difficult for Wilder to get off? Or is Helenius going to have fallen in love with his aggressive style and go in there and get clipped? So all I could really conclude was that Helenius would be beaten by Wilder. I actually did think, as shocking as it sounds, I actually did think it was possible for Helenius to survive. Why? Well, looking at resumes and stuff like that, for example, we know Wilder's gone 8-9 rounds with complete bums before. So doing a bit of maths, I'm thinking, well, if complete bums can go 8 rounds, why couldn't Helenius, if he really wanted to, stretch it out and survive? Now, not unfortunately, as it turns out, Helenius followed his recent form. Helenius didn't default back to his survive and choke tactics. He went with the I'm a killer kind of thing. I'm the Kalinowski, I'm the hype job killer. And he went in there trying to set about Wilder the same way he did with Kalinowski. Now, I was speaking to one of my dons and I said, watch the Kalinowski fight back. Even though he teed off on Kalinowski, he did so with his chin in the air and just flailing left and right. It was really quite a crazy display. Helenius was in there against Kalinowski twice, just winging away big shots, and his chin is so much in the air. And I thought, if you do that against Wilder, you go into sleep. I just couldn't see how you ain't going to go sleep. Obviously, before the fight, the problem is, we don't know. You don't know. And the thing is, also into the build-up, Helenius didn't say, I've just washed Kalinowski, and I'm going to do the same with Wilder. He was actually saying, I'm prepared for the right hand, and I'm going to box and move. I've been doing a lot of boxing and moving. So I was under the guise he was going to be going in there and doing what he did against Dillian White and choking. But the guy came out and he was on the front foot, had Wilder dancing, and then the rest, of course, is history. I knew the only way Helenius could survive in this fight would be to go there to survive. I knew even if once, if I'd have known Helenius was going to go on the front foot even once, I'd have 100% gone all in on the KO. Because there's no way you can dive in with your hands down against Wilder. Particularly when Helenius, he's been KO'd twice cold, and by bums as well. But not only has he been KO'd twice by bums, he's been KO'd twice by bums, right hands. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not someone who's completely sold on Wilder's power. Because guess what? The first time Wilder got in there with someone half decent, he couldn't do nothing with them in fury. Yeah? And unfortunately, what makes the great fighters great is when they stop other great fighters. Yeah, Ali stopped George Foreman, for example. So when Wilder's gone in there with a great fighter, Fury, he ain't stopped no one. And that's the issue I've got. Now listen, if Wilder knocks out Usyk, then we can start really taking things seriously. Because my whole thing is, how do you perform, or how does your right hand work? Power isn't about knocking bums out, in my opinion. Power's about What are you able to do against your peers? That's true power. Because we've seen in history, great people stop other great people. Wilder hasn't showed that, although to be fair, he did ice Ortiz, but then again, Andy Ruiz put down Ortiz. Andy Ruiz is not known to be a big power puncher. Andy Ruiz put him down 3 times. So that whole Ortiz thing, and don't also forget, for all we know, 40 years ago, when Ortiz was training with Mike Tyson and under Cus D'Amato, would Wilder have slept the Luis Ortiz from 1983? I don't think so. Yeah, I've been telling people for a long time, Mike Tyson had the best days of Luis Ortiz in the Catskill gym above the police station. That's just a fact. Yeah, Wilder's fighting an Ortiz who's 63 years old, and like I said, has been doing. Luis Ortiz was Mike Tyson's primary sparring partner. Yeah, Luis Ortiz has logged over 400-500 rounds with a prime 1983 Mike Tyson. That's just a fact. So to think that, and we know as well, head damage is cumulative. So think of all the headshots that Mike Tyson didn't play. Mike Tyson wasn't one of them guys to do flow sparring. He went in there and fought in the same fashion. So Luis Ortiz at 20 years old and Mike Tyson at 16, 17 years old. You take 400-500 rounds of headshots. You might not show it in your 30s, but when you're sick in your 60s, that's when you're going to show it. I mean, look at Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield, who was actually still juiced out of his Barnett. Yeah? Holyfield went in there against Vitor Belfort at 65, and look at him. The first shot that landed, he was on a heap on the floor. So it shows your age is not one of them ones. And Holyfield, for the most part, was renowned for having a pretty good chin. Yeah? So age is, you can't beat age when it comes to chins. The point is, people, Wilder's never stopped no one who is of top quality. And that's worrying when you want to rant and rave about someone's right hand. Although, he's put Fury down, but then again, so has Cunningham. You know what I'm saying? So what are we doing here? Cunningham has put Fury down, and Cunningham ain't on the biggest puncher of all time. So what really are we doing here, people? Yeah? Okay, I guess you could say in the Wilder first fight, Fury was pretty much comatose. So yeah, that's worth something. Because up until that point, Fury has only been flash knocked down. I'd say in the third fight, that was a flash knockdown. Fury got put down twice, but he wasn't comatose. That first fight, Fury was comatose. So I guess that does give some credit towards Wilder's hands. But again, we don't even know how good Fury's chin is. Why? No one's really tested it, innit? It's not like Fury's been in there with some top quality heavyweights to end up testing his chin. For all we know, his chin might not be all that great. Do you understand what I'm saying? That said, Alexander Usyk, we've never seen even phased. So, yeah, we've seen Usyk pressured. We've never seen Usyk, though, doing a stanky leg. If Wilder ices Usyk, and that's the thing, the great thing about Wilder and Usyk fight is the fact that Usyk and Wilder, in fact, Usyk will actually be heavier than Wilder. Wilder weighed in at the weekend, I think 215, 216. Usyk was like 222 against AJ. So the reason I bring that up is to say that, well, if Wilder knocks out Usyk, then that will be a pure, fair comparison. Wilder knocked out a top-level guy who's never been trouble before, never been down before from a headshot, and he was his own size. It's not like Fury putting Usyk down because, well, you got 50 pounds of weight. If Wilder ices Usyk, I'll call him the greatest puncher of all time. That's a fair thing, but we ain't seen that yet. Also, if Wilder ices Joe Joyce, I'll give him the credit. Those are the two fights, really. Any one of them two. That's what I need to see Wilder do. Because guess what? He weren't able to finish Fury. So when you look at Wilder's resume, he'd a bum slayer. Yeah, that's the bottom line. That's the only fair, logical, statistical conclusion to make. Wilder has an affinity to KO and bums. That's it. Now, with this fight specifically, it has to be said, hate to break it to people, the shot looked booky to me. Even though I've already said that Helenius coming in with his hands down, jumping in, weren't a good idea, the shot that actually allegedly did it, for me, was just bullshit. It was, and people talk about arm punches, yeah? We just saw at the weekend, Clarissa Shields' arm punches. That shot from Wilder was a wrist punch. He literally was like this. That's how it went, I swear to God. Wilder KO'd. Now, I'm not saying, I've already explained, Helenius did not have the best chin. Helenius is a sucker for the right hand. We know that. But come on. Wilder was on the back foot. Wilder was jumping backwards. And we know Wilder doesn't have the best stance. Wilder and his big long basketball legs was going backwards. And he goes like that. Yeah? He didn't even, like normally when you think about right hand, you kind of like turning your elbow over. Yeah? Whipping it over. Turning your shoulder and turning your elbow over. It's like that. Wilder was like, elbow was down. He's like, I swear to God. What the fuck? How the fuck do you knock someone out like that? And going backwards. It's not even like Wilder was going. It was backing up. He went, bing. I don't know, man. Listen, it looks like fake news to me. Again, listen. If Wilder had knocked out Joe Joyce or Usyk or Fury, I could then say, listen, man, the guy's just got some mad thing. But you tell me, is it a coincidence? If Wilder's been in there 3 times with Fury, who we know doesn't have the best chin, and you couldn't do nothing with him. Do you understand what I'm saying here? We can't rate someone's power about what they do with paid sparring partners and bums. And I hate to also break it to people, but Wilder has a history of paying his sparring partners to take a dive. That's not me making things up. Go back and watch Wilder versus Malik Scott. For you who don't know, Malik Scott is one of Wilder's sparring partners. Wilder brought one of his sparring partners into the fight, and Malik Scott categorically, go and watch it, Malik Scott categorically did not get hit. And I've heard people saying, YB, there's no way. Of course Helenius got hit, because look at his face reaction. Listen, go and watch the Malik Scott fight, because Malik Scott made it look believable as well. Malik Scott looked completely iced, and he hadn't even been hit. So I'm sorry, the whole performance from Helenius, I just don't count it. And I'm sorry. I don't know, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I find it hard to believe a man can KO someone by flicking his wrist. Particularly when, in the clutch moments, all of a sudden, all that power Wilder has disappears. Do you understand? Yeah? In the clutch moments, Wilder's fully extended right hand can't do nothing. Or couldn't finish Fury. Do you understand? Yeah? Don't tell me that you can knock someone's spark out of a wrist shot when your fully leveraged right hand couldn't finish Tyson Fury. That don't work for me. That just don't work. I think Helenius was more than happy to jump on the floor. Yeah? That's the bottom line here. I think Helenius was more than happy to jump on the floor. Bottom line. Yeah? Let's just leave it there. I'm not knocking Wilder. Listen, again, I'm setting it out clear for you, man. If Wilder knocks out Usyk, if Wilder knocks out Joe Joyce, because guess what? Wilder has failed 3 times to knock out Tyson Fury. So that's what we know for a fact. So we can't give him credit. Every time Wilder's gone in there with someone his own age who's great, he lost 3 times. Or he couldn't, that all of a sudden, that magic right hand couldn't do squat. Yeah? And in fact, Tyson Fury, who's renowned for being pillow-fisted, whooped your ass and put you down 3 times. Do you understand? That's for me, that's problematic. No one here has ever called Tyson Fury the biggest puncher of all time. Yet, he's the one who's gone up against his peer in Wilder and stopped him. Oops. So I'm sorry, there's more of an argument for Tyson Fury being the biggest puncher of all time. Because when he's gone in there with his great level peer, he knocked the guy out twice. Oops. Yeah? Yeah, oops. And in fact, not only that, what else do we know about Fury? Fury's just gone in there with Dillian White, someone who, for me, is no worse than Ortiz, in that sense. When you think about Ortiz's age, at least Dillian White's 33, 34 years old, prime guy, and Tyson Fury hit him with 1 shot and iced the guy. Oops. So again, there's more evidence for me that Tyson Fury is the greatest puncher. And listen, obviously Tyson Fury is not the greatest puncher of all time, but I'm talking about actual evidence. The evidence shows Tyson Fury is actually a bigger puncher than Deontay Wilder when it matters. Not what happens when you not when you do fixed fights and bums jump on the floor. And that's what I'm saying. Deontay Wilder's right hand for me is problematic. When it matters, it ain't there. Yeah? When it matters, it ain't there. Oh, sorry. When the fight isn't fixed, all of a sudden, Wilder's right hand ain't nowhere to be found. And what gets me is the fact that it's not as if, well, YB, Wilder didn't land it. No, Wilder landed his right hand on Fury multiple times. It just didn't ice him. So someone explain that to me, please. If your right hand's devastating, why did it knock Tyson Fury out the same way it knocked out all the bumps? I'll tell you why. Because Fury wasn't paid to jump on the floor. That's the only way you can resolve this issue, this contradiction, people. It doesn't make sense. All the bums end up on a big heap in the floor. Anyone who's really coming to win, all of a sudden it don't work. And even Ortiz for me is problematic because Ortiz is another guy who's kind of like Wilder's friend. Wilder gave Ortiz another shot based on nothing. Because they were friends. Now, I'm sorry, but I find there's an issue when friends fighting. That's why I don't like Fury versus Chisora. To be fair, I don't think Chisora will take a dive, but still, I don't like that fight. It's not right that sparring partners and friends should be involved. It's too murky for me. And the Malik Scott fight proves that. And now the Helenius fight proves that. I've never seen someone moving backwards and flick his wrist and the guy jump on the floor. Helenius, whether he took a dive or not, Helenius couldn't wait to get on the floor. That's my conclusion. In the first round as well. I'm sorry, it's not for me. Yeah, the narrative isn't believable. All these guys end up on the floor in round 1, but when someone turns up to win, oh, you get beat 3 times. Like, how'd that work? Someone explain it to me, please. Yeah, explain it to me. All the bums that get in there to lose, you knock them out in the first round. The guy who turns up to win, he knocks you out. That don't register in my system and in my world. But listen, I ain't knocking Wilder. Actually, I'd like to be proved wrong, honestly. I'd love nothing more, even though I'd back Joe Joyce to beat Wilder. If it's so, I know, yeah, Joe Joyce is going to turn up to win. I know Usyk is going to turn up to win. Yeah? Now, if Wilder knocks out Usyk in the first round, if Wilder knocks out Joe Joyce in the first round, I'll come on here and tell you the greatest puncher of all time. But I ain't giving up the accolade of that based on a sparring partner with a suspect punch. No way. I've heard there's people saying, oh, why be he's back now? Yeah, he's back. The greatest puncher of all time's back. What? He had 3 fights to show he was the greatest puncher of all time and couldn't get the job done. And it wasn't through lack of opportunity. You had 3 different, and in fact, Fury was coming off a 2-year layoff. Fury off a 2-year layoff, you had perfect opportunity. And in fact, you hit him twice, you put him down twice, and you couldn't finish your job. That is not someone who punches like people say he does, in my opinion. Anyway, so I give whatever this was, I give Wilder credit. At least Wilder, I respect Wilder more and more every day, because at least Wilder has the oomph still. At least Wilder isn't broken like AJ. Yeah? Wilder is still a top alpha male, if that makes sense. AJ is a broken beta male. So I respect Wilder that even though and that's the thing, Wilder's been washed. Despite Wilder being washed, he still has maintained an element. Yeah, the whole twerking thing's weird. Yeah, obviously, but that's the thing. Wilder hangs around with certain dons, and they're from the cabal. So Wilder has been turned out. Yeah, a whole bunch of Shelley Winkle's friends have done God knows what with Wilder. That's not his fault. Yeah. So when you see Wilder twerking, that's a consequence. Trust me. If you'd have been hanging around some of Shelley Winkle's cabal friends, you'd be twerking too. But putting that to one side, Wilder has retained some alpha qualities. He still goes in there believing he's the baddest. Yeah? He still has that aura. AJ don't have none of that. AJ broke a man. So yeah, salute to Wilder. I'd love to find out that his power's real. I'd prefer that. But I got a feeling Wilder goes in there with Usyk. Wilder goes in there with Joyce, and all of a sudden, again, he loses, and he can't put the guy out. And I'm going to say this also. If Wilder fights Usyk and Joyce, for example, and doesn't finish either of them, he will not be even a top 5 puncher, in my opinion. Because you're not counted on what you do on your... In my opinion, you don't rate people on what they do against D-level opposition. You rate them how they perform in the clutch moments. Yeah? Simple as that. Anyway, smash the like button, subscribe. Shamanda YB. I'll be back.